Okay, today I'm going to give you a demonstration of how to build a class file and then also create a demo file and access how to access the class file from the demo file. So I'm going to go to NetBeans and start here with the file and then start with a new project, and I'm going to pick a Java application and go to next, and whatever the default name, I'm going to use that. Whatever the NetBeans gives me, and I'm going to here remove the comments as we usually do. And here I have the skeleton of a program with the public static void main method. So when we work with a class file, we need two files. One is the class file and the other one is the demo file. So this is, I'm going to demo file or the driver file. I'm going to use what I have on the screen as my demo or the driver file, and I'm going to create another one. So notice this is Java application 40. I'm going to move my cursor where it says Java application 40 here. I'm going to highlight it and I'm going to do a right click. I'm going to then go to the new option, and from then going to pick Java class. You see here Java class, click on it and it'll ask you, what do you want to call it? I'm going to leave the default name. It says a new class, and I'm going to click finish. And notice that right here you should see it in here under Java application 40. Under the same folder I have two files, both Java files. One is called Java application 40, the other one is called new class.java. So the new class.java, which I have currently opened, I'm going to get rid of these comments, and I'm going to start from here. I'm going to make this class, I'm going to build a rectangle class. So it's like a blueprint, the rectangle file. I'm going to call it rectangle, and immediately you'll see that there's an error message on line number 2. I'm going to click it and it'll ask you, it says we used to call the default name new file. It's asking you should be naming it to rename it to rectangle.java, and I'll say yes. And now that you see that error message on line number 2 is removed. So the first thing I would do is I will call what I'm going to start with what they called instance variables, right? Instance variables. So here it's going to be slightly different than the way we are doing it. First we got to start with what they call access specifiers. There are public access specifiers and private access specifiers. These instance variables are always going to be in the form of private. So just go with the flow for now. We will explain at a later time when to use private, when to use public. So right now on line number 3, it's the access specifiers is private, the data type is double, or actually doesn't matter, we can call it int, and we will have two variables. The first one is the length of the rectangle, the second one is the width of the rectangle. So those are the only two variables. Notice they are in green, so they are not defined. You will also notice we usually define variable inside the main method. These are defined outside any of the methods, so these are called global variables or instance variables. Next I'm going to type the first method we have, and this is a specific type of method. As you can see, it's the access specifier here is public. All the methods are public, and on line 3 all the variables are private. The name of this method is going to be the same name as the class, which is rectangle. And now this is therefore a special kind. Notice public class rectangle, and then the name of the method is also called public rectangle. When those two are the same, this specific method is called a constructor. So I'm going to match those two variables that you have. The length, I'm going to call it with a different name, int len, and I'm going to call the next one int w. So the width will be, length will be len, width will be w, and I'm going to open the curly brackets for the body of that method, the constructor. And this constructor method is used to initialize variables. So the length that we have on line number 3, length is going to be equal to this value len. this will look a little bit strange to you initially, and we're going to make the width equals to W. So this is a standard procedure. All we are doing by in this lines on this lines number 6 and 7 is to bring in the outside values, length and the width, into the class file so we can do some computations from that. Okay, so this is the, again, this method is called a constructor method. Next, I'm going to add another method to calculate the area, and I'm going to call it public. You can call this any name you want. I'm going to call it public int get area. So the name of the next method is get area. Notice here in the parentheses I have no variables coming in because it's going to access these global variables, length and the width. And I'm going to say, because it's a value return method, I'm going to return the area is given by the length multiplied by the width. I'm going to say I can assign it to a variable, or I can just return whatever the values that you have, value that is bringing in length and the width, multiplying, that's the area of that rectangle. Very simple calculation. This is the extent of my rectangle class. All it does is given length and the width, it'll calculate the area. Next, I'm going to go to the Java application 40 file, and you can see it has a public static void main on line number 3. This is the usual type that we've been dealing with up to now. So I'm going to do the following. I'm going to say, all right, good int area. I'm going to define a variable called area, and I'm going to in the next line going to type something new. This is rectangle. I'm going to call it something like rectangle box equals new rectangle, and I can pass two values in here for the length and the width. So I'll call the length whatever, let's say length is 10 and the width is 5. Right? You can have, so remember we access before length first, width next. So this is meant to be length 10, width 5, or you can actually define it even here. It doesn't matter. You can call it length and the width here and then access the variable names. Either way it's fine. So the line, the formula that I have here, the code I have on line number 6, it's called an object line. So I'm writing an object of type rectangle so it can access the rectangle. So what it does is send the value of 5 and 10 and 5 into the rectangle class file, and it will compute the area. So I'm going to say area is equal to this variable box, right? Box dot get area. Now notice, where did I get the get area from? Get area, this get area is in the rectangle. So I'm telling you, go to this get area and get the value of that get area, which is the area. So area is going to get substituted to the area, and let's print that value. System out print line, we'll say area equals, and our usual format. Now when we access that variable, you can't just say area, you have to say, well, you can actually say area because we assigned it to a variable. You can say area like this, or you have to say, if you don't want to write area here, you can say box dot area. You can replace that straight away in there on line number 10. That will be fine as well. So let's go and run this. If I run this program, you will see area equals 10 times 50. There's no computation here to calculate the 10 times 5. It's in the rectangle file. So this is like a blueprint. If you send any two values of the length and the width, it will compute the value of the area of a rectangle. And this is known as a demo file because it has a public static void main method, and you can send these two values to an outside file, get the area and get printed.